If the advanced laboratory in history wasn't built in Switzerland but in the mind of a man 2500 years ago, for about 4 centuries from Galileo, we've treated material science as the ultimate authority of reality. We built billion-dollar atom smashers and space telescopes to find the building blocks of the universe. But what if I told you that long before quantum physics or neuroscience, the Buddha had already mapped the fabric of reality with a precision that makes modern instruments look clumsy? This isn't about religion versus science. This is about the uncomfortable fact that on 5 specific frontiers, from subatomic particles to the structure of the galaxy, science is still playing catch up to the Abhidhamma, the Buddha's higher teachings. Let's look at 5 mind-blowing areas where the ancient science of the mind actually beats modern science to the punch. Let's start with the hard fact that shouldn't be possible. If I asked you to describe the microscopic structure of the human eye, you'd need a high-powered microscope, right? The Buddha didn't have a microscope, yet in the commentaries of the Abhidhamma, the eye's sensitivity, retina called chakku pasada, is described in shocking detail. We didn't just say the eye sees. He identified that the sensitive part of the eye is just the size of a louse's head, located in the center of the pupil. And here's the kicker. He described it as having 7 distinct layers. Modern histology confirms that the retina is indeed composed of 7 distinct functional layers. How does a man in 500 before Christ know about retinal layers? Science relies on external tools. The Buddha relied on supernormal insight. In this round, the introspective microscope wins after 2500 years. We are taught that atomism, the idea that matter is made of tiny particles, is a Greek or modern scientific discovery, but while the West was still thinking in terms of earth, wind and fire, the Buddha was deconstructing matter down to the Rupa Kalapa. He taught that what looks solid is actually made of billions of tiny fundamental energy bundles called Kalapas, appearing and disappearing trillions of times per second. He even broke these energy strings down further into 8 inseparable elements called Suddhashtaka or Avinibhogarupa, concepts that mirror the quarks and gluons of quantum field theory or string theory. Science needed the Large Hadron Collider to figure out that matter is mostly empty space and vibrating energy. Buddhism figured it out by simply looking closely. Science describes the what, the math of the atom. Buddhism explains the experience that clinging to this vibrating energy as solid is the root of our suffering. This is where modern science hits a brick wall. Neuroscientists can map every neurons in your brain, yet they cannot explain how a firing neuron becomes the feeling of seeing the color red or hearing the sound. They call this the hard problem of consciousness. They literally don't know the answer. The Buddha didn't have this problem. He didn't just vaguely say consciousness is a river. He mapped the code. The Abhidhamma describes the cognitive process called Chittaviti, a precise 17-step sequential flow, the primary cognition process path that happens every time you see or think something. The consciousness turns toward the object. The consciousness arises on the eye and receives it. The consciousness investigates it and so on, concluding with registration. This happens billions of times a second. While neuroscience is still arguing if consciousness is something in the brain, whether it is real or an illusion, Buddhism has already written the user manual for how it works. Before Galileo, the Western world thought the Earth was the center of the universe. Even in the early 20th century, we thought the Milky Way was the only galaxy. Meanwhile, 2500 years ago, the Buddha was describing great galactic systems called Sahasra Lokadhatu, Dvisahasi Lokadhatu, and so on. He spoke of a universe containing thousands of suns, thousands of moons, and thousands of worlds. He explicitly stated that human life exists in other world systems. He described a cosmos that expands and contracts in cycles, not just big bangs but also big crunches over eons called Kalapas. Science is only just now getting comfortable with the idea of the multiverse and cyclic cosmology. The Buddha was already there. Finally, the biggest disagreement of all, death. Materialist science assumes that when the brain dies, the lights go out, zero, nothing. But this violates the deepest law of physics, conservation of energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, it only changes form. If consciousness is a form of energy, which the Abhidhamma implies it is, it cannot just vanish. The Buddha explained the mechanics of the consciousness at death called Chuti Chitta. He described how the last moment of one life acts as the entanglement for the first moment of the next life called Patisandhi Chitta. This new arises happens instantly in a moment called Shana, faster than light. It's not magic, it's similar to today's proven quantum entanglement. It's a transfer of information and energy. It operates like quantum teleportation, where the state of a particle is transferred to a distant location instantly. The original dissolves and the new one arises with the exact same informational imprint, without a physical object ever traveling the distance. So, who wins? Science has given us incredible technology. It can build the smartphones you are watching this on, but when it comes to the nature of reality, the structure of consciousness, the vastness of the cosmos, and what happens when we die, modern science is often just confirming what the Buddha observed 2.5 millennia ago. Science uses a telescope to look out, Buddhism uses the mind to look in, and it turns out the view from inside is much clearer. What do you think? Is science just rediscovering Buddha's wisdom? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to understand the true side of your consciousness and ultimate reality, the 17 steps of consciousness we talked about, make sure to stay tuned. We are going to break that down in the next video. You don't want to miss it. Thank you.